Hello everyone, I'm back on the sofa today with Lucianne Hayes-Logan from Tus Alpajares, an expert in all things bureaucracy and translation related, and in particular with the paperwork surrounding the buying and selling of property as well. So welcome back to the sofa, Lucy.
Hi, it's lovely to be here again.
Today we're going to talk about something that comes up quite a lot, and that is the difference between for a property, the deeds or the escritura and the catastrale or cadastre, because it's something that there's a lot of urban myths about which one's true, which ones means what. So I thought for our viewers you might be able to give us an overview of the difference between the two and why there can be errors sometimes.
Well, errors in Spanish property paperwork are nothing new, unfortunately, mainly because a lot of deeds are very, very old. So when they've been changed over, like the translation or measurements, sometimes you lose some measurements, sometimes you gain some measurements, especially when you see such measurements like obradas, which an obrada was literally how much an oxen could plough in a day, which changes depending where you are, etc. So it was never really quite exact.
Yeah.
But when we look at the differences between a deed is what you own. And in there you should see a description of everything that you're, in your case, selling or buying, including any properties, anything particular on the land, any kind of detail of what you actually own. This then goes to the registro. The registro will register this in your name, show how much of a percentage you own, what you own. And then when you get something like a nota simple, which is like a simplified version of the deed, you should have a matching description, which then matches with your deed and shows who owns how much. So for example, if you're a married couple, normally you both own 50%, etc. It varies, but that's the sort of things we look at. Cadastre, on the other hand, is catastrophic, as we call it in Spanish.
Yes, the catastrophic.
The catastrophic. Because it's not always right.
Yes.
And in fact, more often than not in rural Spain, it's normally wrong. And it can be a little bit wrong, which is not normally a problem. If there's a huge difference, then yes. If you've got a lot more land or a lot less land, then you have to do different paperwork procedures in the notary to amend that. But some cases, the land can be a different shape, different boundaries, different outlines, doesn't include a property. Why doesn't it include this property? You see all kinds of things on Cadastre. So this kind of varies because Cadastre is a tax entity here in Spain.
Right.
So it's the inventory of land, it's an inventory of property, but it's mainly for tax purposes.
Okay. So it doesn't hold any weight in terms of the escritura, the deeds?
It's less that in weight-wise, but still very important to try and make sure it's right, or at least only marginally wrong.
Yeah.
And when I mean marginally wrong, I don't mean, a few 100,000 square meters. Just a little bit different is fine. But when it's something quite considerable, it definitely needs looking into.
Because one of the things I know a lot of our potential clients ask us, you can access the cadastre online and then they look at the register for that property that they're thinking of buying, and potentially it might say on there that, for example, the property type is a vivienda, meaning it's completely legal to live in all the time, but actually that might not be the case.
That's very true. Cadastre have a way of doing things that kind of involves flying a drone over land. So what they see in the pictures is a guess of what they assume the outline is sometimes, what's there. And in the case of properties, if they think it's a property, it will be classed as a vivienda because that's what it'll be taxed as. But sometimes that can be what we know as a nave, which is not the same thing as a legal vivienda.
Completely different, yes.
Which can cause some inconveniences later down the road.
So in essence, don't rely on the cadastre to be accurate in terms of what is there, particularly in terms of legality or in terms of the legality of the property.
Exactly. Cadastre means more that what they'll be taxing you as. So it's very common on a piece of land that you can see it divided into many subsections, let's say maybe A, B and C, that then tell you underneath the A, B and C the different types of what Cadastre has registered that as. That doesn't mean that the land is divided into three, it just means that they're taxing it three different ways on what they think they can see there.
Yeah. Okay, so I know that is confusing for a lot of people when they start to look at these things and then sort of see improductivo and
no olivos de regadío and a lot of different things like that. I just think, why
so
is it
what
divided?
is it? It's actually one piece of land just with three different tax categories.
Exactly, different tax categories, and there's so many tax categories. You can check that out on the Cadastre website. They do actually have a breakdown of each and every type and what they've listed it as by the letters that they include.
And I know one of the issues that we face, particularly in rural parts of Spain, is because the aerial view has been done, doesn't always reflect the shape of the land, and then you get a line drawn that's sort of a straight line on a curvy curvy boundary.
Very much so. That, or sometimes you have boundaries that have been there for many, many years, and they're not the same as what's in real life. In real life, you might see a straight line of a bancal, kind of like a different lower level on the rural field, but it's not where the boundary is. The boundary might be the other side of that, but Cadastre will assume, well, there's kind of a wall here, so it's probably there. But that's not always the case. So normally to amend those kind of things, you need to get an architect involved, and you need somebody who knows the outline of the land.
Yes.
We still rely on someone knowing, obviously, where their boundaries are, to say, well, my boundary goes to here. And they can actually then redraw that correctly for you.
Yeah, okay. So I know it's something we've been experiencing recently, and you've been kindly helping us with some of the buyers and sellers, or particularly the sellers actually, whereby if the catastrale is, the error is more than around 10% of the land size, that it needs to be redrawn in order to be able to sell the property correctly. What would your advice be to people who are thinking of selling now or in the next 12 months, in terms of checking the catastrale and making sure that everything they need done correctly is correct?
Always check the Cadastre. It's free to check. You can check it online, find out whereabouts your property is, or your local town hall can help you. And that will show you what Cadastre has registered as yours, square meterage, and what's on there. Ensure that that matches your deed.
Okay.
To the best way possible. Like you mentioned, if it's 10%, then you look at more legal paperwork. It can either be to extend or decrease the property size, but try and keep that in mind. And don't be afraid if you have more than one cadastral reference for one piece of land, because they have been separated sometimes to multiple times. More often than not, we see a house is a separate cadastral number to the land. That's very common. So don't worry if that happens. Just keep that in mind when you do your adding up to make sure the square meterage is right. If something doesn't look right, or if you're concerned, contact an architect. That's what they're there for. They can amend that for you.
And is that something you can help with?
And that is something that we can help get people in contact with architects and people who can amend that situation for them.
Because it's quite important the architect knows the area as well. Yeah. So if someone looks at that, or they're unsure, they're thinking of selling and they want almost like a preliminary check to make sure they're not going to hit an unexpected problem when they come to selling their property, to get in touch with you first and have a look at it.
Just send us a message, let us know where the property is, or the cadastral code if you have it, and if you want something checking against a deed, send us a picture of the description of the deed, and we can say yes or no, this is an issue, this isn't an issue, and kind of give you some guidance. Because it's quite intimidating when it comes to selling a house in Spain, the amount of paperwork required.
Yes.
And I know that not everybody moves through bureaucracy maybe like I do, which is literally my job.
Yeah.
So if there's ever any doubts, please just get in contact. We'll try and work it out, and we'll see what's going on, how best to advise you, and how best to fix the situation that you've got.
Yes, because nothing's ever quick in Spain when it comes to the bureaucracy side of things.
Unfortunately not.
Okay. Lucy, thank you so much. That's been really good, because I know a lot of clients do get confused between, particularly when they come from other countries where there is only one property register. The fact that there are two here, but one is kind of has more weight than the other because it tells a different story, can be a little confusing. So that's great. So thank you very much. And if you're watching and you're confused at all by that, don't hesitate to get in touch. Leave a comment below and like and subscribe to our channel so you can hear more updates on the legal parts of buying and selling a property in Spain. But if you are unsure if your property is correct on the catastrale, and to save unexpected cost and trouble later on, don't hesitate to get in touch, and we'll be happy to help you out. So thank you for watching. Thank you to Lucy for your time again, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.